All right, what is up? We are live. Got a lot to cover here today on this one. So let's jump right into it. First off, let's start off with Milton's best and worst. Follow Milton Valenzuela Jr. on Twitter. He's got a nice little scoring system that I like to use for best and worst. The episode was too long today, and actually yesterday. I try to keep them under 10 minutes. I've been failing dramatically on the regular program, on the regular videos to get it there. Anyway, here is his list. Tyler Reddick at a 3.5. He has as his worst driver from Watkins Glen. Had a poor race on a track type that he is normally good at. Was spun on the restart, which made matters worse. And as damage compromised him for the rest of the day. Yep, that's pretty much what I saw. And that wasn't even the only spin. He was collected on a few as he got further and further. And that's the thing about track position and qualifying. The further you get back there, the worse it is. Brad Keselowski also getting a 3.5, started 28th, finished 26th. Keselowski struggles on road courses showed once again, not helped by his multiple pit road penalties. He was also involved in many crashes. So definitely a very similar day to Tyler Reddick, even though Tyler Reddick qualified, I guess, a little bit better. Denny Hamlin getting a 3.0, started 22nd, finished 23rd, had a bad qualifying, and proved consequential as he was wrecked on lap one at the bus stop. Despite recovering and earning a stage point, he crashed in turn two with Brad Keselowski. Unlucky, but should have qualified better. Yeah, and he also said it wasn't his fault for the wreck. So that was an interesting thing. If you listen to his podcast, he was getting cooked on that a little bit, saying like, "Dude, that was 100% your fault." So a lot of people saw it as his fault. A lot of people didn't. I just thought, to me personally, just a racing incident. People going three wide. Two guys had much faster cars than him at that moment in the race, and that's all I really saw from it. Bubba Wallace at the 3.0 started 32nd, finished 17th. Speed was non-existent this weekend. Poor qualifying, poor speed, and an average running position of 27th. At least Wallace took advantage of late race chaos to get a good finish. Salvaged an okay finish on a weekend that was basically full of nothing for him. So he did at least get the finish there. So he was second worst there, and then first, the worst of the worst, I guess, is one way to put it. Ryan Blaney started 30th, finished 38th. He was wrecked on the first lap, breaking his steering rack under NASCAR's DVP policy, which I touched on the video, so I'm not going to jump too much into that. Blaney could not return to pit road on his own, therefore out of the race. So there you go. The poor qualifying there sort of sunk his day. So that's Milton's bottom five. Let's look at Milton's top five, who had the best race here. If it'll pull up for me. There we go. Michael McDowell at a 8.0, scoring an 8.0, finished seventh, started 10th. His usual best on road courses. Michael McDowell had a car that could contend for the win. So, yeah, solid pick there. Carson Hocevar also getting an 8.0, aside from qualifying where he went off track, maximized his strategy to run top 10 all day. He was even contending for the win with the late chaos. SVG at 8.0. Old Gizzy there had one of the fastest cars. SVG took advantage of varying strategies to race Chris Buescher for the win, but he made a mistake in the bus stop. So there you go. That mistake probably costing him a 9 or an 8.5 at least. Chris Buescher getting an 8.0 as well. Obviously won the race. He did a good job moving through the field to fight for the win, passing SVG and Chastain on fresher tires. Took advantage of SVG's mistake to pass him on the last lap and win. And Milton Valenzuela Jr., follow him on Twitter if you want to see his five worst and five best. But his number one best of the day was Ross Chastain. Started first, finished fourth at an 8.5 is what he is ranked at for his overall race on the day. Had a dominant car. The Suarez caution at the end of stage two hurt him as he was forced to race on old tires, but he held on and was eventually passed by others on fresh tires. Verdict, unlucky, but drove his best race of 2024. And that I do agree with. I do think this was Ross's most complete race of this season. So appreciate Milton there. I always try to get him worked into the shows when I can. So yeah, he does. I think he does a good job, and I like his system. And I don't think I've disagreed with anything he's had so far. So does a good job over there. Friend of the show, good to have him on there. Another so hard transition. Matt Tift in an incident at a local short track where a guy wrecked him. I'm going to leave names out of it. So if you want to look it up, you can definitely look it up. But I'm going to leave names out of it other than Matt Tift. And it's kind of a bigger deal because it is Matt Tift for two reasons. Matt Tift, former Cup car owner, former Cup Series driver, drove at RCR and Xfinity, if I remember correctly. So big aspect from there. But he also is a survivor. He had brain tumors removed. So a survivor of that. Walks down to talk to a driver that had wrecked him in the race. Wanted to give him a piece of his mind. One of the crew member grabbed him and put him on the ground. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. You're just separating drivers there. But then while that crew member was holding him on the ground, he wasn't doing any damage. The guy holding him on the ground, he was just holding him on the ground, making sure he didn't go do anything out of the way to his driver. Don't have a problem with that. But then while he was being held down, another guy came and just soccer style kicked him in the dome there. And that is just such a low class move. I'm on YouTube, so I'm trying to keep it clean, family friendly. It's just such a low class move from that guy. And I waited to talk about it until today because we do finally have some information on what's happened. That guy has been suspended indefinitely, the crew member that did it. So good on the series. I can't remember if it's the Stars or the ASA series that they were racing in, or maybe the past series. I don't know. But whatever series they were racing in, good on them for handling that. That's exactly how that should be handled. And if Matt Tift wanted to press charges, he's sort of waffling on it, whether or not he wanted to press charges or not. That's up to him. So whatever call he makes there, that's on him. But kicking somebody in the head when you know who it is and you know the history they've had, that makes it even worse. What was done there, a low class move, period. It should never be done, period. But then to do it to a guy like that, that was just, that was probably the low of the weekend. The absolute lowest of the low as far as the weekend goes. So yeah, did want to address that and did want to address it to say that they have suspended the crew member from the other team that did the soccer style kick indefinitely. So that's 100% what that is. All right, now that's sort of a Debbie Downer news. Let's move on to something more positive or bittersweet, depending on how you do it. Dale Jr. racing this weekend in the Xfinity Series, possibly, according to what he's saying, this is going to be his last race in the Xfinity Series, going to Bristol. If you listen to his podcast, he said he feels like there's a lot of pressure on him because he had such a good run, and they expect him to win. He said to some drivers, look at that as opportunity. He looks at it as pressure. It just depends on the driver. So he was talking about that a little bit. But the more and more he kept talking about it, just the more and more when I was watching that, I was like, man, this does not feel like this is going to be his last Xfinity Series race. I still feel like he still wants to get out there and do it. Now, I could be totally wrong, but it was just a feeling I got when he was talking about the way he was talking about it. I feel like this probably won't be his last Xfinity Series race. But that being said, it's just a feeling. Maybe I'm feeling that way because I don't want it to be his last Xfinity Series race. And that's because he's a Hall of Famer. Like he first off, he's a Hall of Famer. He shouldn't be worried about the pressure or anything like that. Just have fun in allegedly your last race. I hope it's not. And the way you were talking about it, I don't feel like he thinks it's his last race. I don't know if it's really hit him yet or if it's actually going to be his last race. But let's take a look at his Xfinity Series career, because his Xfinity Series career doesn't get talked about enough. He was one of the best Xfinity Series drivers of all time. 146 races, I think over 22 years. But in 146 races over 22 years, he's won 2 championships back to back, 98 and 99. He was the champion over there. He has 24 wins and 95 top 10s. So only 51 races. Whenever I do a live, I usually get my math wrong, but I think 51 races, he hasn't finished in the top 10 out of 146. That is an insane number. Like, that is just crazy. 24 wins, only 2 less wins than he had in his Cup career, because I think he had 26 in his Cup career. And his first race was the 1996 Carolina Pride Red Dog 250. Carolina Pride is a car wash service, sort of the drive-through car wash deal here in North Carolina. And Red Dog, who remembers Red Dog? That was like a beer, adult beverage or something. And I think Kenny Wallace drove the number 8, ironically, the number 8 Red Dog car. I think he drove that in the Busch Series Red Dog. I don't know if that's even still around. So Myrtle Beach not around. I'm not sure if that Beverage is still around. Carolina Pride still around. So of his first race, 2 out of the 3 no longer exist as far as the track and the sponsor. So it has been quite some time from his first race to what could possibly be his last race. But man, like when I was looking at those numbers, doing the research on it, that really, really jumped out at me. I was like, man, he was an absolute monster in the Xfinity series. So pretty cool deal there. And in the video today, obviously Ty Norris is going to be leaving Trackhouse amicably, allegedly. I don't think it's amicably at all. I think something happened over there, but I've made a whole video of it, so you can check that out. And also Ryan Blaney wants the damaged vehicle policy at least amended or checked. I made a video on that too. And the only other thing, let's take a quick look at the playoff drivers on the cut line, because that's the other big story going on right now. Denny Hamlin -6, -12 for Brad Keselowski, Martin Truex Jr. -14, Harrison Burton -20, +6 is Ty Gibbs and Chase Briscoe, +25 Byron, and 26 is Larson. Blaney at 29. I feel like everybody else is pretty much locked in. If Blaney, Larson, or Byron have a bad race at Bristol, get caught up in something, they'll be in trouble. But other than that, I think they're in. I think the race is going to be between Chase Briscoe, barring, and it's Bristol, anything can happen. Any of those guys could wreck, but barring somebody wrecking in the first 5 or 10 laps, like Ryan Blaney did this weekend, I think it's going to be between Chase Briscoe, Ty Gibbs, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, and Martin Truex Jr. Harrison Burton, he's going to have to do something massive to get back into it, like win the race or win 2 stages. Win 2 stages, he's back at 0, or he'd be back at number 12. So anything can happen. Going to be a super intense Bristol race. But we do have a poll question up, and it does relate to Junior. Do you really think this is going to be Dale Jr.'s last Xfinity Series race? 26% saying yes, 69, a nice percentage there, saying no. 3 saying never heard of him, but good luck. And 3% are like me. Why do the 49ers keep losing to the Vikings? The 49ers haven't beat the Vikings in Minnesota since 92. I see you out there, Iceberg. I see you. Congratulations to your team. I hate them with all of my soul right now. So yeah, those are the options on the poll question. The last 2 are sort of tongue in cheek, but yeah, 68% now on the nose, 28% on the yeses. So there you go. Get your votes in on that, and I will jump through the chat and see what you all would like to talk about. Let's see. Not making headlines, but Ford has overtaken Toyota for second and may overtake Chevy soon. Yes, that's a good point. About a month ago, they were 40, over 40 points behind. And now they've cut that almost in half at minus, or they might have cut it over in half. I can't remember that far back, but I know it was 40 something points. 26 points behind now. 26 points behind Chevrolet for number 1 right now. So yeah, good call there, Jamie Schweitzer. What's up in between the lanes? Napa Racing fan, phony playoffs, phony overtime, phony damaged vehicle policy. We're talking all things phony coming up next, says Napa Racing fan. Yeah, indeed. Like the damaged vehicle policy, I feel like is because of the playoffs, to be totally honest with you. And now it's become a detriment in the playoffs. So they created a problem and created another problem. Like that's just what happens when you change things. And yeah, I'm not a fan of the damaged vehicle. I've never been a big fan of the damaged vehicle policy. There's too many things wrong with it. You're rushing repairs, and so the work is not going to get done properly. When you're rushing a guy in that situation, they're not working as safely as they could be working. So I just don't see any positives from the damaged vehicle policy other than, I guess you don't have slower cars on the track, but NASCAR already has a rule. If you're going too slow, they'll park you. So I don't see anything that you really gain with the damaged vehicle policy. That's just always been my stance on it, and I'm glad that Ryan Blaney has come out and said something about it. I'm glad that Bob Pockrass came out and said something about it. So it's super interesting. And it was also interesting in that clip from Bob Pockrass where he said it was sort of a slip, but it sort of lets you know what he thinks about the playoffs. He said we're stuck with this playoff system, so it lets you know. I don't think he really meant to let everybody know what he thinks about the playoff system, but he did right there because he said we're stuck with this playoff system. So I thought that was interesting in those comments as well. Connor Zilich wins the Bristol Truck Race Thursday? Question mark, says OJ and Toothpaste. Your guess is as good as mine. PC Gone Rogue saying it's 8. It's actually 8:14, but it was probably 8 o'clock when you wrote that. Yes, Zilich in the trucks on Thursday, says Napa Race fan. Chrome Diesel, what's up, my friend? Hope you're doing well as always. What's up, one wise guy? Hola to you as well, my friend. Hello, in Norwegian. Or hey, Denny never thinks he does anything wrong, says OJ and Toothpaste. Yes, that's super interesting. Denny doesn't think he did anything wrong in that situation, and I don't think anybody did anything wrong. It's just a racing situation at a road course. He had a slow car, they had fast cars. It is what it is. But yeah, you knew those comments were definitely coming, no doubt about it. Norris going to college. What, says Never Race fan? Wow. On the list of silly season bombshells, that, in my opinion, has got to be top two or three. So yeah, that was an absolute from Jordan Bianchi. That was an absolute nuke, no doubt about it. I would personally hire James Dennis Allen Hamlin to be my delivery guy. So a good FedEx reference there as well. Busher being the third best full time this season, winning the Glen. Yet best he'll end the season as 17th in the final standing, says Chrome Diesel. Yep. It like I said, if you're going to keep the playoffs, and you have to for basically for your TV contracts and stuff like that, can we at least tweak it to have the best drivers in the playoffs? Like, I don't know. All people wanted was for wins to count more. They didn't want you to win and be in. They just wanted wins to count more, so that if you won 6 races and wrecked 5 times, you would still have a really good chance of being in the playoffs. That's really all the fans ever wanted. But they went to the system they went to. So now that we're in the system, hopefully we can tweak it and make it better going forward. However that may be, however NASCAR deems it to be. Dumb vehicle policy for damaged cars, says Napa Racing fan, talking about the DVP. What's up, B? Good to see you on here. Hate to say it, but Truex is toast, says one wise guy. Him and Hamlin have had bad momentum. They've had the momentum go the wrong way at the worst possible time. I do agree with you there, Wise. Chrome Diesel saying, what's up to B? Do you think Truex's comments were a dig at Larson? I don't know. I don't know that they were necessarily aimed at one person in particular. I think he's just in the field and how they do restarts. So I don't think it was necessarily. I mean, part of it obviously is going to be at Larson, but I think it was aimed at just everybody in the field that he felt ran over him. Without question, Ty Norris thing blows my mind. Happy for colleague, but a huge blow for Trackhouse. He was responsible for a lot of their big sponsors, says Dirty Def. Yeah, I don't know if the truth about what happened. First off, I'm just going to say, if somebody leaves or gets fired, whatever happened, leaves. I feel like somebody left. If somebody leaves in the middle of the playoffs, I feel like something happened. I do not feel like it was amicable, allegedly. So, and the rest of it from there, that's the only part I'm taking issue with. The amicable part, I think that's a line of crap. Whatever actually happened between them, that's between them, and eventually one day it will see the light of day what actually happened. But I don't think the amicable thing, when you leave in the middle of the playoffs, I don't think that holds a lot of water. So I do disagree with that. But other than that, huge move, huge win for colleague, and I feel like they're going to improve and get better as time goes on with him in place. And it is a huge loss for Trackhouse. Trackhouse is really going to need to find somebody exceptional to replace him, because, like I said, Ty Norris is a once in a lifetime type of guy for what he does. So huge shakeup at Trackhouse. Trackhouse has had nothing but good momentum thus far, but it's like any other team that rides that crest. Eventually, people start picking apart what you're doing. Like you saw, I don't know. Let's go to the Yankees when the Yankees were good at baseball. You saw them every time they won a championship, somebody would try to take a player from them or something like that. Same thing with Trackhouse. Now that Trackhouse is on this proverbial rise, you're seeing people try to take pieces and parts away from them. You saw the same thing with Hendrick when SHR first started over there. They took a lot of Hendrick guys over there with them to start SHR. So whenever you get higher and higher up, people start plucking your talent from you. But to pluck a guy this high up, if that's what happened, or if he left, whatever happened, Trackhouse has a big hole to fill now. Whatever happened over there. But I don't think it was amicable, because there's no way, if it was amicable, you leave in the middle of the playoffs. Your favorite Bristol night memory, says OJ and Toothpaste. Well, I can say my favorite Bristol night memory now, looking back on it now, is the Dale Earnhardt versus Terry Labonte thing. But in that moment when it actually happened, I was like, man, I felt terrible. I was like, man, I can't believe you, because I liked Terry Labonte too, but I was obviously an Earnhardt. I wasn't that sad about it. I was still happy he won. But I was like, man, I hate that he wrecked Terry Labonte. I was like, I wish he, I wish he could have wrecked somebody I didn't like back then. I don't know anybody at that time driving a Ford, because it was just the big Ford versus Chevrolet rivalry, which it's going to get big again now with the manufacturer standings within 26 points as well. But that's probably my favorite Bristol night memory. I wholeheartedly agree with Truex's comments. I hate overtime. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of overtime either. Like, just finish it under yellow. But if you have to do overtime, you get one attempt at overtime. Otherwise, honestly, guys could, if they really thought about this and were desperate enough, they could manipulate the overtimes until they could just literally wreck people accidentally until they got the track position they wanted to advance in the playoffs. So I don't see multiple overtimes being a good thing in any unlimited attempts being a good thing in any way, shape, or form. Let's see. Oh, no problem, Milton. Glad to do it, my friend. So go check him out on Twitter, Milton Valenzuela Jr. Check him out on Twitter for his 5 best and 5 worst of every single race. Stewart throwing a helmet at Kenseth windshield. I like to. As far as stuff like that goes, I liked it when Ward Burton said he was beefing with Dale Jr. and they talked about, you threw your helmet at him, and he said, I wish I would have had something to shoot at him or something like that. That was pretty funny. That was a pretty good moment as far as race drama or whatever. Why did Tift walk over there in the first place? Says one wise guy. He was according to Matt Tift, he just wanted to tell him, like, you don't have to wreck everybody when you've got a car that fast to get to the lead. He was going to just give him a piece of his mind, something like that. He wasn't going over there to fight him. So it is what it is. And I will say, as far as that goes, don't walk over there to a guy's pit if something happened. Just kind of, if you want to, just wave him over and you sort of meet halfway. If going over to the pit, going over to another guy's pit hardly ever ends well when there's been a wreck on the track. But it is what it is. A bad race at Bristol for any series, unless very uncompetitive ARCA, is very nearly impossible. Yeah, Bristol usually puts on a good show, and I think the tire fall off and the teams being able to account for it this time is going to make for a really, really good show. Ross was overlooked by most people this week, but he ran a great race. I'm sure SVG wasn't pushing, but he couldn't believe Ross was keeping SVG at bay most of the race. He was running the best lap times. Yeah, Ross had a absolute rocket. And Ross and SVG worked together for that setup. So I thought that was interesting too, that they worked with each other coming up with that setup, and they both were really, really fast there. So yeah, and like Milton was saying, his, without a doubt, his most complete race of the season. Him and Kyle Busch, I know Kyle Busch got taken out this race. Him and Kyle Busch have literally gotten hot at the right time. Unfortunately, they were so cold that neither one of them made it into the playoffs. Imagine these two having the runs that they've had toward the end of this season and actually being in the playoffs. Like that would be a story right now. The two of the hotter race car drivers, performance wise, being the right place at the right time. Unfortunately, they didn't make the playoffs. Chris Buescher would have to be a third. He's getting hot at the wrong time. He's getting hot at the right time. Unfortunately, he was cold at the wrong time. Didn't make the playoffs. Although I don't know what else Chris Buescher could have done other than win. Like he had. Like I think somebody said he's naturally third in points without the shakeup or whatever. So I don't know what else he really could have done other than win with this interesting playoff system that we have in place now. Wise, he got wrecked, says Bumblebee. Thursday Night Thunder, sort of Bristol with ARCA and trucks. We are not a demolition derby, says NASCAR. Give Dylan his playoff back, says Wilfred J. Yeah, interesting. That's going to be Steve Phelps' probably most quoted thing of all time. It's not demolition derby, and then just about every race since then has gone to overtime. So it is what it is. Zilich will be all NASCAR had to say with the Dylan thing is we're setting new precedent. And the new precedent is you can't wreck somebody by right hooking them at the end of the race. You don't have to say this isn't demolition derby, because people are still going to wreck to win, and they're going to allow those wins to stand. They just didn't like they just did not like the right hook from Dylan, and that's the new precedent going forward. That's all NASCAR had to say. Just tell they have such a hard problem with just telling the truth and saying it like it is. Like they're it's almost like that's their kryptonite. They can't just say why they made the ruling. They have to come up with this inauthentic nonsense as to why they did something, right? So I mean, it is what it is. Zilich will be the next eventually Cup driver to do the double. Oh, that's a good point there, Napa. That definitely could happen. I think if Dale wins, it's his final race, says Duke Chronic. Yeah, I don't know. Junebug needs to run just one more Xfinity race, run the number 8 DEI number. Once more is all I ask, says Napa Racing Fan. I know he won't run the 3 again because he won in it with the Wrangler deal for Richard Childress back in the day, but I don't know about the 8. So we'll have to see about that. Dale Jr. won in his very first starts to an Xfinity. Says OJ and toothpaste. Good stat. I did not know that. That's actually one thing I didn't know. So that's cool. Did not know that. Howdy from the Great White. I knew he had won at Myrtle Beach. I didn't know he won the first time he went there. So that's cool, man. Cool. Appreciate you there, OJ. Howdy from the Great White North. What's up, Robin Marks? What's up, Canada? I believe a driver outside of the playoffs will win again this weekend, says one guy. Yeah, so far we've had one spoiler. Can we get more drivers that aren't in the playoffs winning races? That's what I call a spoiler. Dale needs Amy's permission to run next year, says like dislike. Hey, that's fair enough. You enter a marriage, it is a partnership. So happy wife, happy life, right? He says as he gets a swig of cold Rocky Mountain refreshment. It's Ty Norris, the Kurt Busch of team presidents, makes every team better. When he was there, says in between the lanes, could be. He's just he's got a lot of talent as far as that goes, putting the people in the right places. We need Dale Jr. to win Friday night, says Napa Racing fan. Oh man, can you imagine? Could you imagine being in Bristol on Friday night and Dale Jr. wins? And if he wins, I do agree with whoever said that it will be his last Xfinity, because that would be a way to go out. Jr. held his own, but partied too much when young, said Johnny Sechrist. Yeah, he basically said today that he wouldn't like being a driver now because it's too much work and he's lazy. And I thought that was an interesting comment to make, because he does remind me of Kyle Petty. A lot of people are like, Kyle Petty was, because they just remember Kyle Petty in the sprint car. And by the time Kyle Petty got to the sprint car, he really did care about racing. Unfortunately, the cars, Dodge wasn't there. First off, Petty's cars weren't there either. It took Dodge a long time to get going in the sport. So a lot of people remember that. But Kyle Petty in the 80s and 90s was a different animal. Kyle Petty in the 80s and 90s was running top 10 in points and was always threatening to win races. Just immense talent, but didn't really care. I don't know. I don't know any other way to say it. He just didn't really care. Didn't put the work in like other drivers did. And I saw the same thing with Junior. Tons of talent, just like immense talent. The talent was never a question. But I felt like he got outworked. I feel like everybody in that era got outworked by Jimmy Johnson and Jack Knaus because they were out there practicing and testing. So that's I do see those two kind of lining up in the same way as far as having a lot of talent. But then did they leave some wins out there on the table? Probably. Red Dog Beer, the one that that goes way back, says Delmar Kaufman. For sure. That was a really cool Kenny Wallace car, though, back in the day. Kenny Wallace was the king of having really good paint schemes. He had the Dirt Devil paint scheme on the number 40. He had, what was it, Kendall motor oil. That was a really awesome scheme as well, also on the number 40. And then the Red Dog scheme. That thing was pretty tough. I didn't like the Stacker 2 schemes, but those three that I just ran off, those were definitely good schemes. Thoughts on Bryce Young being benched for Andy Dalton? Is he done in Carolina, says OJ and Toothpaste? I don't know. If they can trade him and get some of the stuff that they traded to get him back, maybe. But I don't know. It's Carolina, man. Is anybody going to be good in Carolina? Like every quarterback Carolina's had and gotten rid of, they go to another place and got better. So it is what it is. It's Carolina Panthers football. I don't know why you would watch it. I can't, unless you're just really diehard. I don't know why you'd watch it at this point. It's so bad. Junior had a great career, but lost cup races in the dumbest ways imaginable. Easily could have had 40 wins. Seriously, I don't disagree with you. Feel bad for Bryce Young. A lot is not his fault with a terribly run franchise. I agree with you, Napa. Red Dog is still being made by Miller. Okay, so there you go. Red Dog's still out there somewhere. The search is on in the off season. The search is on, and that stuff was so nasty. But the search is on in the off season. We're gonna find out. Let's see. Tepper needs to be benched in Carolina. Red Dog brand is still alive between Miller High Life and Milwaukee's Best, available since 2005. Great owner when he throws water at fans. Jags game last year, says Napa Raisin fan. I still remember when Dale Jr. took the white flag in 2011 and the Coke 600. I was there at that one. I was trolling Junior fans before that happened, sitting in my Kevin Harvick gear. I think I had the full face print Kevin Harvick shirt on, if I'm not mistaken. I was just having a good time with him because I really thought Junior was going to win. So I was just messing with him, saying, "Oh, he's going to lose. He ain't good." Just trolling, and then he actually lost. and I had to dip out of there so carefully. I had to dip out of Charlotte Motor Speedway on the backstretch back when they had stands back there. Had to dip out mighty carefully because even though it was a joke and I thought he was going to win, he lost and they were not happy. So I had to exit stage left. Even I still remember. Let's see. Dang, Iceberg says Dirty Death. Yeah, Iceberg, man. I hope his Vikings have a good season because typically they beat the 49ers and they don't do well the rest of the season. Hopefully it's different this year. Irony of wearing ally purple, says one wise guy. I've got a Vikings hat back there somewhere, actually from Minnesota, from somebody that went on a trip. I probably need to send that down to somebody that's a Vikings fan. I don't know. Irony of let's see. I wish my Colts would get it together. 0-2, losing to Malik Willis in Green Bay is nothing but pain. Yeah, and Willis calling his own number there because his center Ralphed on the ball is it's going to go down in history as one of those iconic things. What's up, T Van? Good to see you on here. Don't forget Harvick, ironically, passed Junior at Martinsville earlier that year too, with a very few laps to go. Says Napa race fan. I think that's Kevin Harvick's only win at Martinsville too. He was usually atrocious any other time he went there. How about how much does Ty Norris make? Would it really be worth it to hire him? I mean, a position like that is his to run a team, but why not just save the money? I'm sure Trackhouse is fine without him, says Escobar. I don't know, man. His track record speaks for himself. If you got it to spend it. But it is what it is. Any news on the new Chevy? Been nothing said in months. I think they're just going to run the Camaro next year because they haven't passed anything through. It would take them at least a couple years to get the nose approved. So we'll be looking at the Camaro again next year. Getting long in the tooth. They're going to have to change it at some point because Ford and Toyota have definitely caught up. This is going to be Chevrolet's best year. After this, I feel like they're going to be in for a pretty raw season next year. I do feel like Ford and Toyota both are going to pass them. Denny Hamlin said the DVP was made due to cutting costs. Yeah, that's what NASCAR always says about stuff like this, and it doesn't necessarily cut costs at the end of the day. Ty Norris first move. Hey, colleague, don't hire Daniel Hemrick next year, says OJ and Toothpaste. In Ty Norris's credit, he'll probably find some sponsorship where he can get a driver that doesn't necessarily have to pay his way. Cost cutting. What is cost cutting, says Napa Racing Fan. What did you think about the tires? I thought the tires had pretty good fall off. I think they played out the way they were supposed to. We need more power and more tire wear. Martin Truex Jr. had that me at a New Jersey in him, calling drivers a bunch of clowns. Says in between the lanes. So yeah, letting the New Jersey come out according to lanes there. Funny, Joe Logano said he didn't have a problem with the policy because if you can't fix it within that amount of time, I doubt you want to go back out there and drive it. Says Dirty Death. I mean, there's two sides to every story for sure. Racing needs a healthy junior. I don't want him to push his luck, says Brickyard Brickhead. Spill the beans on Ty Norris, BB, says T Van. I don't have any beans to spill. I don't know what you're talking about. Okraft, I'm drinking Banquet 2, says OJ and Toothpaste. So cheers, my friends. The freshest Colorado water you will ever drink. It's involved in a crash. Before you go back out on the track, NASCAR should inspect your car. Yeah, that's all they really need to do, right? NASCAR decides whether or not you can go back on the track, and you get one attempt at it. Like if you go back on the track and you don't meet minimum speed or something flies off, then that's it. Your day is done. Pretty much like it is now. You don't need to put a timer on it. The timer does nothing, in my opinion. F1 cars, don't let cars back up, if I remember right, says Dakota Henderson. It depends on what happens to the car. I've seen some of them getting wrecks and change wings and stuff like that. So I think it depends on what gets hit on the car. Damaged vehicle policy is not a good idea. NASCAR makes bad decisions about gray areas in a lot of their rulings, especially at tracks. Coors Latte, says OJ and Toothpaste. I agree. The gray area stuff with NASCAR can be very infuriating at times. Buescher would be in the playoffs instead of Burton. Got to wonder what happened behind the scenes at Trackhouse. Yep, for sure. But it'll whatever happened one day, I'm sure will eventually come out. Ty Norris was just had the SVG announcement, like 2 and 3 weeks ago. That's what I'm saying. So I feel like something happened. Colleague definitely needs help keeping Dinger in Cup. Would help maybe cut a full-time Cup car and rebuild the Xfinity program. I think they're going to go full steam ahead with the Cup series. I just feel like Matt Colleague's got it like that. in my opinion. Not gonna say we're stuck. The only way we're going to return to former glory is to have strong leadership with an iron fist, put slap shoes in charge of NASCAR. There you go. Uh, Forget about voting for the president. Let's vote for the president of NASCAR. Slap shoes 2024. There you go. I bet colleague regrets not signing Justin Haley now. Indeed. Indeed. Love slaps NASCAR. Damaged legitimacy video. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the playoffs are hurting the legitimacy. I do agree with that video. Brock Beard has a good video on it as well. Calls out the playoffs for how phony they truly are. So yeah, check out Slap's video on that and Brock Beard's video on it. This had to be an issue with Ty and Trackhouse because you wouldn't make that move to colleague. Otherwise, I agree you wouldn't leave at this point in the season. Yeah, I mean that's the telltale sign. You wouldn't leave as the playoffs are starting. You would have either left before or you would let the season play out and leave after. Something happened. I don't know what it was. I don't know if I do know. Something happened. Something happened. And he left when he left. BB, anytime we go to Applebee's, make sure Motor City Dan Campbell is our waiter. Same thing with Kyle Busch at Chet. I will say this. In my opinion, allegedly, he did not get fired. So I will say that about it. But I feel like something happened. Will Collick made the claim that they had a big announcement. This could have been it, says Wilfred J. BB, anytime we go to Applebee's, make sure Motor City Dan Campbell is our waiter. Same thing with Kyle Busch at Cheddar's and Corey LaJoy at Chili's. And honorable mention, not really he is associated with it anymore, but Ryan Newman, get your free Bloomin' Onion at Outback. BB, which HMS driver will be eliminated first? That's a good question. That's a good question. That's good. Right now it's trending toward Kyle Larson, but I don't think he'll get eliminated. I probably just cursed him by saying that, so that's my fault. I don't know. Alex Bowman has gotten hot at the right time. I don't know. That's a good question. I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't. I don't have an answer for you. I feel like they're all running good, so I feel like they'll all make the. I feel like they'll all probably make the final 8. According to young Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano saved at the pump. Yeah, Ryan Blaney. I think he's 30 now. Can we call him young Ryan Blaney anymore, or is he old dirty Blaney? ODB, old dirty Blaney. Especially when he's got the playoff beard going. So might be time to go from YRB to ODB, old dirty Blaney. I thought about that the other day because I made a video about Chevy having good young talent like a long time ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago when they had Eric Jones and all these guys. And the guy chimed in, Austin Dillon's 30 years old. Can you guys please stop calling him young? So I was like, okay, well, according to him, 30 years old, that's the cutoff line. You're no longer young. So 30, you're no longer young. So he's old dirty Blaney now, according to that one guy, that one time on YouTube in the comment section. If you could pick a fight after Bristol night race, what 2 drivers do you think would be the most entertaining? I think Chris Buescher versus Austin Hill. Let me think about it because Jeffrey Earnhardt's going to be one of them. So I need to think about who would be as scrappy enough against Jeffrey Earnhardt. So let me think on that for a minute. Daniel Suarez versus Jeffrey Earnhardt. That's I think that would be the ultimate Bristol face-off. Larson makes the championship 4, says Napa Racing fan. I think so too. Like it's hard to say a Hendrick driver is going to miss the championship 4. Same way with no overtime, easy to manipulate, causing a caution with 2 to 3 laps to go. If your teammate is leading, there's not a great way to fix it in my opinion, but enjoy the overtime at Watkins Glen. Yeah, that's why I think if you have an overtime, you got to limit it to 1. Otherwise, you get into guys trying to manipulate the race. Good point there, Dirty Duff. Note Xfinity races are now on the CW. Practice and qualifying still on USA. Races are on CW. Appreciate that, Napa Racing fans. Cindric will make the round of 8, and Bowman will be in the final round, saying Bones does. Cindric, don't sleep on him. He's getting hot at the right time too. Good call there, Bones. I love when leaders of the race aren't the playoff drivers, but in my opinion, all the playoff talk overshadows the race at times. It does. I'm with you. I actually like it when guys that are basically up front. Basically, with Bob's quote, "We're stuck with the playoffs" means NASCAR will never have a dam of legitimacy rebuilt anytime for the foreseeable future, and the sport won't grow in popularity, says Chrome Diesel. Yep. I care more about the race than the playoffs. The racing should be the entertainment, not the goofy point system. Agreed. Mama says playoffs help grow the sport. I mean, maybe with the analytics they're looking at, it depends on what you look at according to growth. I don't know. I don't know. I would have to see some data behind that, but I don't know. Dale Jr. didn't win his first Xfinity race. He raced a game. Me personally, I don't care. I'm going to watch it regardless. It's just a sport that I've grown up watching. I love it. I'm not going to stop watching it, but I would prefer a different point system. Dale Jr. didn't win his first Xfinity race. He raced a Gateway and ran into Robert Presley on purpose because he was getting too hot in the car, says Dirty Diffs. Okay, so there you go. Denny needs to get rid of that dog. Bad luck since they've had it. Oh, that's yeah, that's I don't know. I'm not into the whole superstition thing. Uh, we'll see. I remember when Denny Hamlin wrecked Kyle Petty in practice at Dover in 2008, and Kyle went up in the garage and slapped his helmet visor down, and all Hades broke loose. Says OJ and toothpaste. I'd forgotten about that. That's man, that's a good memory right there. Kyle Petty's downfall was him going to Richard Petty Racing, says Dakota Henderson. Kyle Petty with the Woods, but best at Sabco with Mellow Yellow. Kyle Petty won his first race in anything ever at Daytona in 1980, ARCA race for sure. Spake and Kenny Wallace interview today. Trotta was last week, was interesting, says Napa Raceman. Yeah, I haven't seen either one of those. I do need to check them out though. I'll just get some old Milwaukee's best. The old beast, old Milwaukee's beast. Bones does. He's a beast man. KP had one great year, some good, but most were meh, says Napa Racer fan. I don't know. He had some pretty strong years there. He finished, I mean, anytime you finished top 10 in points back then, definitely had a good year. Sam Darnold, but he wasn't into it. Talent wise, he was there, but he just wasn't into it the way that other guys were into it. He wasn't living for it back then. And like I said, by the time he started living for it, wrong situation. Sam Darnold, in my opinion, he might hear it and be like, what is this guy talking about? But that's just the way I always saw it. Sam Darnold, former Jets QB as well, all along with 49ers. I need to read his book too, by the way. Carolina currently with the Vikings. Indeed. And the Vikings quarterback ruining everybody's night on DraftKings last night. What were the Eagles thinking? But we're going to move on. We're just going to power through it. Carolina let Mayfield go to. Look at how that worked out. That's exactly who I was talking about when I said you see other guys go and do well as soon as they leave the Panthers. Wow, the trucks are racing again. I thought they went out of business or something. Haven't seen them in like a month. Biggest NASCAR fight besides the Daytona 500 in 1979. I don't know. Ty Dillon versus Sam Mayer probably got a ton of coverage, so that one's got to be up there. Maybe Matt Kenseth versus Jeff Gordon. There's been a bunch of them. I feel like coverage wise with social media though, I feel like the Ty Gibbs versus Sam Mayer probably got the most coverage of any fisticuffs of all time. I don't know. No, I take that back. Ross Chastain smoking Denny Hamlin in the face. Ross Chastain, not Denny Hamlin, but Noah Gragson smoking Noah Gragson in the face. That probably got more traction than anything. And then Denny Hamlin's reaction to it only added to that being a big moment. So probably Ross versus Noah. That probably, other than 1979, that probably got the most coverage. This BB live stream is brought to you by Coors Banquet Beer. Taste the Rockies. It is not, but we will say that. Hope Trackhouse was a better fate than DEI after Norris left. YouTube toss is why I can't say that. Hope Trackhouse has a better fate than DEI after Norris left. Going to be interesting to see who they are hiring going forward. Yeah, whoever they replace him with, big shoes to fill. And it's going to be interesting to see how good Kala gets. New York City has the most aggressive drivers on the road. I had to do it back to them in the car rentals car. Says OJ and toothpaste. Not the biggest fan, but I wish Clint could have got to Gordon at Phoenix. Way too early. Saturday night Bristol Cup race decision. A Toyota wins. Hamlin or Truex Jr. If you ask me. So he's going with Toyota at Bristol. Not a bad pick. Ty Norris got tired of Pitbull singing in all the team meetings. International love, says OJ and toothpaste. Hopefully Kyle Busch is back on track at Bristol. Good track for him. Good track for him. Along with Ryan Newman, Outback Steakhouse, Kevin Harvick as well. Indeed, Kevin Harvick and Ryan Newman, the Rocket, Ryan Newman, Rocket Man Ryan. Casey Kane drives for Colleague with Krispy Kreme for the Prime sponsorship. Yeah, yeah. And speaking of Prime, they sponsor one Kyle Larson. So there you go. Kyle Larson is sponsored by Prime energy drink or whatever that stuff is. Nasty aftertaste. It's the great. They sponsor Larson. It's the greatest thing ever. It tastes like crap. That being said, I watched any IndyCar stuff at Nashville. Sponsor me, Prime. I will shill your products. I don't take any sponsorships, by the way. So that's the joke. I watched any IndyCar stuff at Nashville, unless it's like my friends. Uh, in Nashville, I didn't watch any IndyCar at Nashville, unfortunately, bro. If you're not going to give us the scoop, what are we doing here for? I don't know. You can get going. That's fine with me. Power was out of the championship battle before the race really started. Good racing, not amazing. Let's see. ODB, I like it. Says Bones. Expectations for Cup this weekend. Says one wise guy. IndyCar on Fox now for 2025 and beyond. Hopefully, Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace work the cash register at McDonald's for us. BB, the same thing with Suarez, SVG, and Melon Man at Wendy's. Hill can scrap, says one wise guy. Glad my driver, Colton Herta, won the best season for his career, finally wins at the oval track, says Chrome Diesel. Dang, I know I feel old, turning 30 2 weeks ago now, says OJ and Toothpaste. Was it the 1987 Firecracker 400 when Schrader went upside down? At the finish with the Red Baron pizza car, says Brickyard Brickhead. Heard a couple drivers talk about how this tire actually made a difference because you were able to get the tires hot and it made the car start to slide, unlike the harder tire would. So yeah, that's a good thing going forward. Duke Chronic, I think we may go to two green white checkers, and after that, they put them single file. It makes the drivers look bad. It says Duke Chronic. Yeah, I don't know. There's just so much. There's so much I would do different. Like the green white checkers, I would also do single file restarts too. But most people disagree with that. They don't want it to end under yellow. They don't want single file restarts. So I'm fighting. I'm fighting a losing fight there. Let's see. What NASCAR drivers used to smoke cigarettes back in the day in the race car? Dick Trickle was one of them. I think David Pearson as well. I don't know. I don't have a I don't have a rolling index of that one. I never changed my mind about anybody more than I have Kyle Petty. Really was not a fan at all when he was a driver, but now he's one of my favorite personalities in the sport. It's crazy how that happens. A lot of people said that about Daryl Waltrip too. So that's super interesting. Dick Trickle had a cigarette lighter in his race car. People can overtime or the drivers want as much as they want. I believe both are problems. It stems from the playoffs, says Chrome Diesel. Yeah, and it wanting to be more of an entertainment deal. I watched a Manning cast of the Eagles Falcons game last night. Says in between the lanes, John West Townley. Yes, the John West Townley. That was another one. The spear from Cole Custer on John Hunter Nemechek. Zane Smith to front row, says OJ and Toothpaste. I'm pretty sure Zane Smith's going to front row. The only person that doesn't think that is Kevin Harvick. So I don't know where he's getting his information from on that. BB, does Outback have the best steak and blooming onion in the world, says OJ and Toothpaste. I don't know. I don't know. I'm honestly, I don't think I've ever had anybody else's blooming onion. Prime is the worst drink I've ever had. So disgusting, says OJ and Toothpaste. Sounds like one welcome is about to be a huge thing. I wonder if RCR is still going to have a surprise as well. Yeah, I'm wondering what the RCR surprise is too. Are they fully merging with Colleague? And is Ty Norris gonna be the guy that leads both of them? Like, is it gonna be RCR with Colleague or something like that? I think there's a lot of things spinning around going over there, and it's gonna be probably a bigger bombshell than people are thinking when it actually happens. So I think this might have raised the stakes on that, but it's going to be interesting no matter what happens. Nice that Joey was able to win with his Joey Logano's kids in attendance, VIP treatment, says Jamie Schweitzer. That is pretty cool. Not a great time to be Hamlin. Charters, a bad car the last 2 weeks and being sued. Not really by Hendrick due to involvement with that restaurant that sponsored them. Zane is starting to figure out these cars. Says like dislike. Yep, he is. Forgive me if you've answered this, but what is your favorite diecast you own, and which one is your favorite that you don't own? I have a Kevin Harvick truck that is signed, his first truck win, and just because he had never won in trucks, and I knew that was a big deal to him, so I got that one. So that one's pretty cool. It's pretty low run. Other than that, I don't know. I like them all for different reasons. Let's see. Your favorite NASCAR season of all time, 1992. Bud Grant was the man when he coached the Vikings. Last to practice, always in the playoffs. Says Wilfred J. How about there has been a close relationship between Colleague and Trackhouse? So does that end? How awkward could that be for SVG down the stretch? Yeah, that's going to be something I guess you take a look at as well. Uh, Although next year, I guess it won't really matter. So it'll only be awkward for about 8 races or so. I don't know. I don't know exactly how many races the Xfinity Series has left. Let's see. Are Hooters wings better than Buffalo Wild Wings? It just depends on the flavor. Depends on the flavor. I guess if you go straight hot wing for hot wing, I would say they're probably about dead even. Um, but Buffalo Wild Wings has better sauces overall. But if you're going hot wing to hot wing, probably pretty close to even. Let's see. Zane Smith would be a good fit at Colleague. Says like this. Like I'm pretty sure he's going to front row, but I don't know. Dirty Def saying peace out. Take it easy, Dirty Def. It looks like we have reached the end of the chat. The poll question ends up with 68% saying no, 25% saying yes, and 3% saying never heard of him. Good luck. 3% saying why do the 49ers keep losing to the Vikes? A couple more questions here, and then looks like we've hit the end of it here. Favorite and worst Super Bowl halftime show? I don't know. Katy Perry's was pretty good, I guess. And then what was the worst? I don't know what the worst one was. You ever get Richard's autograph from Me the King? I've got that Mopar hat right there is autographed by Richard Petty. And I've never talked to him, but I've seen him and met him or whatever. BB, what happened to the Niners? I don't know. They're allergic to purple. They always lose to the freaking Vikings, man. Like, I don't know. It's just something they do. They always lose to the Vikings. I don't know. It's frustrating. Frustrating. I'm disappointed as well. Hit the like button on your way, and we keep getting injured too. So it is what it is. I'm gonna enjoy the season for what it is. Still, it's better than the late '90s and mid 2000s. Arnez battle years were rough. So we're at least we're not that bad. Hit the like button on your way out. Same thing happened to Travis Mack going from Trackhouse to Colleague. Says Dirty Def. Where do you stand on the junior thing? I don't think it'll be his last race, but that could just be me hoping it's not his last race. That's kind of where I stand on it. So I would lean toward no, but I think that's more me hoping, and I'm thinking just hoping the reality is not the reality, and I hope he gets at least one more in. But that's kind of where I stand on it. Jamie Swagger, appreciate you, my friends. And Josh Kruger, he's in the same boat. Yeah, I think I'm just more hoping than anything else. But yeah, all right, that's the end of this one. I appreciate y'all as always, and check you next time. No wins 68%, 66%. 27 60 60 it's flipping between 65 and 66. 27% for yes, 5% for the 49ers, 3% for never heard of him but good luck. All right, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.